Okay, Assalamualaikum everyone. So today we're gonna cover the last topic in your AI psychology syllabus, and it's a study under learning approach. So it's a study by Pepperberg, which was done in 1987. Okay, it's about an African gray parrot. Okay, not African. Sorry, I misspelled it there. Okay, so before we proceed with the study, we are gonna have a look at the learning approach assumptions. So there were two assumptions. One, conditioning, either operant or classical, helps to explain changes in behavior, as well as social learning helps to explain changes in behavior. Now we have looked at social learning in Bandura, if you remember. Okay, so in Bandura et al., it was based on social learning theory and looks at the effect on children's behavior of seeing an adult behaving aggressively. So the effect of a model and see whether a child imitates the behavior of the model. Okay, and then we had a look at Saavedra and Silverman. It was about a young boy who had a phobia of buttons and how we use classical conditioning to help reduce his fear and disgust, and how they were successful in doing that. So now for Pepperberg, it's we will explore the comprehension of object categories by a parrot which was trained through social learning and operant conditioning. So in this study, we're going to use both social learning and operant conditioning to teach a parrot, okay, about object categories. Now, now in terms of communication skills, humans are not the only one capable of making meaningful communication. Also, can you name me other animals who can communicate? Um, as you can, if you have seen before, they had tried to teach sign language to chimpanzees and orangutan. Okay, so for example, here this chimp is trying to communicate, telling the person what he wants. Okay, and this is a gorilla. Okay, so chimpanzees and gorilla show language skills and express their ideas and needs through pointing at symbols and using sign language. They have the cognitive capacity to express abstract ideas and in some cases form meaningful sentences. For example, here Coco cried. So this gorilla is called a Coco. Okay, if you look at, if you Google Coco, you can see a lot of videos of him doing sign language. Okay, um, that is in terms of communication. What about other cognitive abilities? Okay, so although language skills appear to be limited to primates only, for example, chimps and what do you call that? Gorillas, yeah. Other species show ability in the form of conceptual categorization of items as the same or different. Okay, we will understand this later. Okay, so because if you think about it, there are only primates can have meaningful conversation with human. Okay, language skills. Um, if you were to say parrot, what they do is they imitate our voice only. So it's not that they understand what it is. It's rather an imitation. So if we say hello to a parrot, they will say hello, okay? But that's not a meaningful conversation. They're just imitating you. But in terms of primates, they actually do communicate with you, telling you what they want, okay? So that is only limited to primates only. So parrots, what do? They have this skill, this cognitive ability of categorizing items as same and different, okay? So for example here, um, so what's same here? It's same color. So if you were to ask a parrot, they would know that the what's the same here. They will say yellow. That the fact they're both yellow. Okay. So if you teach them this, they can then apply the sameness to other items that they have not encountered yet. So for example here they've only taught they have only learned this. So now if they see other items are yellow, they will apply the knowledge to the fact that it's the same. Okay, so this is called symbolic representation. Okay, so they will be able to categorize this as the same and this as the same as well. Okay, This means that the concept of sameness or difference learned from one experience can be applied to an entirely new and different situation. There is evidence to suggest that the capacity to recognize same and different items is present in many bird species. This may be the case as it serves an adaptive function. It benefits a bird's survival. So if they were to see that, if they were to have a look at us, if they were to encounter a snake, okay, one species of snake, and they know that it's dangerous, they can then apply this to other snakes as well. Okay, so all snakes are dangerous to them because they can eat them. Okay. So the aim of the study was to see whether a parrot could use vocal labels to demonstrate a symbolic understanding of the concept same and different. So what is vocal labels? This refers to incidents in which an animal consistently uses a specific acoustic signal when presented with a specific object or class of object. So if they were to say yellow, yellow, that is a vocal label for them. Okay, yellow. Same. Okay, so the research method is an animal case study involving one subject. So this is the same as Salvador and Silverman, except for the fact that this time it's an animal who was trained and tested over a couple of years. Okay, and his name is Alex. So meet Alex. Alex has been involved in prior research on communication and cognition for around 10 years. During the day, the parrot had free access to all areas of the laboratory, and at night, he was confined to a wire cage. He was fed a diet suitable for his species and given toys to play with. So, in terms of use of animals in ethical issues, here only at night that he was caged. Okay, so it's partially acceptable. Okay, and in terms of food, he is not denied or he is not deprived of food, so that is ethically acceptable. Now, these are the items for which Alex could produce vocal labels in English. So these are the things that he could say. Okay, that is what it means by vocal labels. So Alex can already say green. He can say rose. He can say blue, yellow, gray. So he was also taught about shapes. Okay, so he knows two-cornered. Okay, when it comes to two-cornered, um, it means football shaped. Three-cornered, he will say three-cornered for anything that has a triangular shape. He will say four-cornered for anything that is in the shape of square. And he will say five-cornered for pentagonal shapes. Okay. He can already say paper, wood, hide. Rawhide is basically animal skin. Cork, he can say key, chain, grade. Grade is basically steel. So prior to this study, Alex already had a considerable vocabulary as a result of his previous experience as a research subject. For he has learned this over the course of 10 years, so he can already say these things before this study. Okay. Now, he also had experience of replying to verbal prompts. So when asked what color, he could often correctly name the color of an item presented to him. He could even combine responses to describe items. For example, green wood. Okay, so he already understands verbal questions, verbal prompts. He can actually understand it and answer it correctly. So for this study, he will be trained, and the purpose of training here is to teach Alex to respond to questions with categorical label. So all this while he can already say green, rose, blue, yellow, gray, but in this study we want him to learn the label. So instead of saying green, red, we want him to say color. Instead of saying two-cornered, three-cornered, we want him to say shapes. Instead of saying wood, hide, we want him to say material. But in the study, they teach him to say it as matter rather than material. Matter. Okay, matter. So we want him to respond to questions with the categorical label rather than simply describing an item's appearance or stating whether it matched or did not match a paired item. So this is a more complex task which required abstract thinking. So we will what will happen in the training. So during the training phase, Alex engaged in training sessions 2 to 4 times a week, each session lasting between 5 minutes and 1 hour. So it's only an hour at top per day, okay? Alex also engaged in training for other studies during this period. So it's just like you guys, how you guys have psychology, he also has other subjects, other trainings, okay? So what is the training method? Here they use model rival approach. So this is how they train him to say categorical labels. So one human, so here, act as a trainer of the second human by presenting the second human with objects, then asking this person about the objects and offering reward or praise to desirable responses. Thus, the second or the learner human acts as a model to the parrot. So this is where social learning comes to play, okay? Who is watching the interaction, okay? So he will ask her questions, and if she answers correctly, she gets reward. And Alex is seeing all these things. So he is trying to imitate the behavior of the model here. And because he knows that if he follows what the model do, he can also get the reward, okay? So this parrot can also be considered a rival for the trainer's attention. So when he participates, it's as if these two are trying to get his attention. Okay, so who gets to answer first and who gets to get the reward. Okay, so if they offer the right vocalization when the question is asked, they receive the reward or praise rather than the model human. The roles of the trainer model are then reversed. Sometimes they take turns. Sometimes she asks him questions. Sometimes he asks her questions. Okay, so here not only that we use social learning theory where there is a model, they also use reinforcement. Remember how they give reward if they show desirable responses. So at the beginning of the training, a system of continuous reinforcement reward was used. This was intended to create the closest possible association between the object or category and label to be learned. Okay, so this is an example of MR approach, okay? So he acts as a trainer now. This is the model. And she gets the reward. See how she also asks question. See, the reward is the object itself. So if she answered correctly, she's given that object, which is the apple. So here she gives it to him, and he also gets food. See how they're taking turns asking questions. Yeah, so I hope you understand the procedure, the approach. Okay, so basically as you can see, they offer reward if they answer correctly, and the reward was the object itself. Okay, so if they ask apple and the parrot says apple, they are given the apple. Okay, and also other food. Okay, and as you can see, they took turns asking questions. Sometimes this was the trainer, sometimes this was the model. There were times when he was the model, she was the trainer. Okay, now so in this study, how will they use the model rival approach? Okay, so in this study, the task is basically the trainer will give them two objects. So for example here, and he will ask what's different, okay? And the correct response here would be color, okay? So if they say color, they are given the keys. They cannot say green or red. That is the incorrect answer. What we want is the category label. So here the label is color, not the specific color, green, red. We want them to say color, okay? So what happens if they have the correct response? So for example here, yellow square and red square, and the trainer asks what's same, and this, let's say the parrot says shape, okay, which is the correct response. That is the category label. So they are rewarded by being given the object. If it's incorrect, if they say square rather than shape, they will be scolded and have the object taken away. Okay, so that is the reinforcement, positive and negative reinforcement. Okay, now before the start of the study, Alex's vocal labels. Okay, we'll talk about that. As you know, before this, Alex can already say green, red, two-cornered, wood. Okay, but can he say shape, color, and matter? So here at the start of the study, Alex could already say the labels color and shape. However, it took some time to master the vocalization for matter. Rather than saying matter, he say mama. Okay, it means matter. Okay, so the testing phase was delayed for the purpose of accuracy. So they had to train him to say matter first. Okay, so for him to say it accurately. Okay, so the testing phase took a bit longer because they wanted them to say matter rather than mama. Okay, so during the testing phase, so tadi was the training phase, so now we come to testing. So he can already answer correctly in the training phase. He was already trained. He could already say shapes, color, and matter. So now we will test it, whether he learned it or not. Okay, so Alex was tested by secondary trainers. So we didn't use this person just now, the primary trainee. We used another trainer, okay, who had not worked with him on the learning same different. Okay, the learned materials, you see how they were always given two objects, okay, a pair. So here the materials used in the testing phase were paired from a selection given to a student who had nothing to do with the study. So it was chosen by a student, so in order to create an unbiased set of stimuli. So we don't want to use materials that we have used in the training phase because that will be too easy, it will be biased. So we ask another person to choose the two items pair at different trials. Okay, so they also randomly ordered the set of question used in each trial. So it wasn't just what's same, what different, what's same, what different, what's different. They use they randomly ordered it. Okay, so here what items were chosen by the student. Okay, so the task will either involve pair of familiar items. So for example here, that was used in the training phase already. Okay, or sometimes they would have novel items, so where one or both items which he had not encountered in training. For example, five-cornered white paper, woolen pom-pom, pink woolen pom-pom, so which he had not encountered during training. Okay, so as you remember just now, symbolic representation, how they would apply their knowledge to new items. So we want to try it here. Okay, it's missing a bracket. Ugh, that's bothering me. Okay, what was the question asked? Although researchers were only interested in data for the same different questions, other questions were included to prevent boredom effects. So this is the only question that matters. We want them to know whether it's same or different, right? But because we don't want the question to be the same all the time, they also added other filler questions. For example, what color, how many, what shape, okay? Okay, in each trial, during the testing phase, Alex was presented with two objects. So that these are the objects that were chosen by the student, remember? Okay, that could differ in one of the three categories: shape, color, material. For example, here it's the same in terms of colors, but it's in terms of color and material, but it's different in terms of shape. Okay, for example, the group might include a blue wooden triangle and blue wooden square. So for example, here the question would be what's same, and we expect him to say color. And here, sorry, it should be the same matter. Sorry, this should be here. Okay, because if they're both wooden, sorry, this does not go here, this goes here because it's the same matter. Okay, now during the testing phase, the principal trainer, the person here just now that was training him, is present in each trial but sat facing away from Alex. So here he's not looking and was unable to see the objects being presented. After each of Alex's responses, the trainer repeated the vocalization out loud. So for example, let's say this is the first trial and the secondary trainer present him with a blue wooden triangle and a blue wooden cube, okay, square. And the question was, what is same? Okay, and then Alex say, color, color, color. Okay, so what is the principal trainer's job is basically to repeat what Alex say, color. Why do we need this person to repeat? Because this trainer has not worked with Alex before, so he might not understand what Alex say, but this trainer knows and understand what Alex say, so he will have to wait for the answer from the principal trainer. Okay, because if he does not understand Alex, then that might be an extraneous variable. Okay, so we ask the principal trainer to repeat what he heard, what Alex said. Okay, so let's say if Alex's response had been correct, let's say after asking these questions, he's told by the principal trainer that Alex's answer is color and it's correct. Alex was rewarded with praise and given the items. Getting the answer first time counted towards the first trial response rate. So if he says color the first time, that is considered as the first trial response rate. So he got it the first time. Okay. Now, if let's say he asks what's same and he says shape, which is wrong because they're not the same shape. Okay, but then he waits for the trainer to tell him what's the answer, and the trainer says shape. Okay, if it was incorrect, Alex was told no and had the object removed while the trainer turned their head away from the parrot, known as a timeout. This correction procedure was repeated until the correct response was given, and the number of errors was recorded. So if he got it right the first time, that's the first trial. If he got it incorrect, wrong, and then he will repeat it until he gets the correct answer. So the number of errors was recorded. Okay. Now, so Alex's primary trainer, this person, was present in each trial. However, they didn't look at the parrot and were asked to repeat his responses. Can you explain why he was given this role where he cannot look at Alex and cannot look at the objects? Okay, now if you think about it, he depends on his repetition for Alex's answer, right? Now, if he were to look at what shape it was, if he were to know the answer, there's a possibility that he will not repeat what Alex said, but rather change the response, okay, just to help Alex. So we don't want that. So there could be bias there. So what happens is he will repeat what Alex said, but without knowing what is the correct answer. Okay, because if he knows the correct answer, there's a possibility of bias. Okay, I hope you understand that. So now what was the results for the familiar items? There were 129 trials altogether, and Alex was correct in 99 out of 129 trials. 69 trials, he got it right the first time. 30 of the trials, he had to be corrected. Okay, so that's the familiar items. Now what about the novel items where he was presented with the new items that he has never encountered before? Do you think he did better or do you think he did worse? Let's see. Okay, so for novel items, there were 113 trials altogether, and he did correctly 96 times. Okay, so just now was 99 out of 129. That would be how many percent? Sorry, let me just get my calculator. 99 out of 129. So he got it correct 77% of the time for familiar items. For the novel items, 96 divided by 113, he got it correct 85% of the time. So he actually did better with the novel items, so for items that he was never trained with. Okay, so he got it right the first time 79 times. Okay, it was only 69 times in familiar items, but with novel items he actually did better. But why is that? Okay, now tests involving novel objects measured the extent to which Alex could generalize his understanding and communication around the concept of same and different to entirely new situation. As you can remember, this is called symbolic representation. While we might expect Alex to have found it more difficult to judge items which he had never encountered before, he was actually more accurate at doing so. So for some of the novel items, if you remember, was the paper and five-cornered paper and pink pom-poms. So when he was tested with this, he actually got it right. Okay. One reason the researchers suggest for this difference is that Alex received items involved in each trial as his reward, right? So if he got it correct, he will be given that. Okay. As such, he might have been motivated to do better on novel trials because he was curious to investigate new reward items. So he's seeing this pom pom for the first time. Obviously, he would want to get it right. He would want to experience the pom poms. He would want to get it. So that's why he was more motivated to get it right. Okay, for the familiar items, he has already encountered it in the training phase. He knows what it feels like, he knows how it tastes like, so he was not that motivated. He was maybe bored of it. But now with the novel items, new items, things he has never encountered before, he was more motivated to get it. So that's why he got it right a couple more times compared to familiar items. Okay, so what can we conclude from this study is that one, parrots have the potential to demonstrate the comprehension of the simple concept same and different. So he knows what is the concept of same, what is the concept of this different. Okay, he also learned to respond to verbal questions to vocalize categorical labels. So he can also categorize labels. Okay, categorize shapes, categorize color, categorize matter. So they have this cognitive ability called the conceptualization. If you remember what it is, let me have a look actually. Where is it? Here. Conceptual categorization of items as same or different. Sorry. So this is a cognitive ability. We categorizing things as same or different. Okay, so we can see it in parrots. Okay, now that is the end. Oh my god, that's the end of your syllabus. Now please ask me questions if you have trouble understanding some of the parts or all of them. Okay, I will try to answer questions. We will do evaluation on Wednesday, so you have to today and Monday to try to understand the study. So make your own notes, care about it, try to understand it, and we will evaluate it together on Wednesday. Okay, thank you everyone.